Captain America Brave New World is a disaster. It was a box office bomb. So in this video, we are going to tackle a subject many of you have asked me to talk about, and that's why do I believe and why did Captain America Brave New World completely bomb? So let's get to it. So quite obviously, by the title of the video and what I said in the intro, you know exactly what we're talking about. And that's the box office run for Captain America Brave New World, which of course was a disaster. Like, not one of the biggest disasters of all time, but when it comes to Marvel Studios and expectations, we know they were hoping for at least 500 million. So they obviously didn't hit that. Now, of course, what exactly caused this? What's going on? We're going to look at a few factors here. So let's start with the first factor. And again, these are in no specific order. I want to get that out of the way. There's not something that's like a cascading upwards or downwards, most to least important or whatever. They're just going to be in no particular order. So the first factor is fatigue. Marvel fatigue. Is there Marvel fatigue? And if we look at it in the last couple of years, Captain America underdelivers. The Marvels, the biggest bomb in Marvel Studios box office history, right next to The Incredible Hulk. And while people will quickly jump at, yeah, it's superhero fatigue, then how do we explain Deadpool and Wolverine? I mean, that should technically as well be a part of the Marvel fatigue. And let's be real about this. Clearly wasn't impacted by that, and also it's the highest earning Deadpool or Wolverine film. So again, I don't think it's superhero fatigue, which brings me to the second part of what I think happened, and that's Sam Wilson. Now here's what I mean. People liked Sam as Captain. People were fine with him. He gets the shield at the end of Endgame. Okay, fine. Here's where the problems start. His entire origin story, getting the shield, becoming friends with Joaquin, handing over the whole, apparatus he had as Falcon, getting a brand new suit from the Wakandans. None of this was seen by many people. Again, the fraction of people that watch the Disney Plus shows compared to the number that will watch these films, it's just not there. The most successful of them all is Loki, which got about double the views of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. 14 million people. Now, if we look at MCU films, these films pull in, we are talking about hundreds of millions of people that will watch it. That's a problem. That's always been a problem. Marvel Studios realized they weren't going to be able to carry over a one-to-one, from films to Disney Plus shows, which is why they're cutting back on all the expensive $150 to $300 million shows. It's just not feasible. The conversion rate isn't there. And I personally think Sam Wilson not having his story explained elsewhere, like in a film or something like that, I think that's a factor. But also there's the Sam Wilson factor. Many people are focused on the only Captain America I want is Steve Rogers. I get it. I get it. There's the other factor, which is I want Bucky to have it. Okay, I get it. Both of these are, and I'm not saying exclusively, but they are fueled by a certain segment of the fan base that is, unfortunately, racist. Again, I'm not stating you. If you are cool with Sam Wilson taking up the shield, but you think his story was mishandled, like I do, well, there you go. If your problem is, I don't like that he's black, guess what? You're part of the racist problem. So again, I think there's a whole issue, but also the next factor I want to bring in is expectations. Disney reportedly 450 to 500 million is what they were looking at. Some say as high as 550, maybe not. We don't know. But we know that the budget for the film was smaller, 180 million. It shows in the film. It's a $180 million looking film, maybe even cheaper. So if we compare it to the original Captain America, the First Avenger, a film with a production budget of 200 million to 216 million, which made $370 million at the box office, this film is actually more successful. That's just fact because that's the numbers. People forget that Captain America: The First Avenger was a colossal failure and the bomb. Until the Russo brothers came in and gave a decent pitch and were hired, Captain America was going to be put on ice. Let's not mince words, but they saw the opportunity to stick with the character. Maybe they'll do the same with Sam. Maybe they'll be happy with a film that made just enough, but after he appears in Avengers films, they can follow up with more content like The Winter Soldier, and then maybe his box office will rise. Again, it's a possibility. We don't know, but clearly there was some problems and the budget was a factor, which, a smaller budget obviously means smaller marketing budget. Also, the fact that there was barely any toys. Toys pretty much stopped production when they started to reshoot the film, and we barely got anything. This included with advertising, because most of the advertising fell apart or was not done in time because they had to reshuffle the film a year out to a year after when it was supposed to come out. That factors a lot into the pipeline, on top of the next factor, which is a overwhelming amount of publicity that skewed negatively towards the film for various reasons. One, for reshoots. Two, actors publicly talking about how they went through reshoots and that the original film didn't work. And another factor that's public facing, and I think this one is important, so we do have to bring it up. I know some of you are itching. You probably already typed out a comment stating I didn't talk about it, and now you're going to have to delete it or edit it. But Sabra, if you guys watched the podcast I did with our friend Jared over on the Nerd Academy, he, along with his friends that also run other shows, they all refused to talk about Captain America: Brave New World for its support of Israel. That's just a fact. Online, if you were on TikTok, there was hundreds of creators who refused to attend anything for the film, who refused to promote it, who refused to talk about it, who refused to even say if they saw the film, and many of them didn't. So the pop culture zeitgeist was not there. It just wasn't there. And a lot of people have been looking at the whole situation involving the character of Sabra and the very tense political situation with Israel and Palestine, and they chose to vote with their wallet, which is something I always tell everybody. Vote with your wallet. If you did and you didn't want to support the film, despite you supporting Sam Wilson as Captain America, but you don't want to support the message they're pushing, I get it. You got to stand your ground, right? So that is a major factor that I do think impacted the overall perception of the film. Next up, money. People's money. This film came out right as a brand new president took over. Automatically, we saw that within a couple of weeks, the economy took a dive. People lost their jobs. I personally talked to 3 people who wish they could have seen the film with their family. One of them, his job, a government job, was cut. He no longer could afford to see anything like that. He's still searching for a job right now. Another friend of mine, he literally could not afford to see it anymore because of the raising prices of groceries, but also he has to do a substantial amount of traveling for his job. And well, while he's traveling, food's just become more expensive. So now he's got to account for that. He hasn't seen a single movie since this year started. And that's really tough. Again, economically, it's a problem, right? This is just a real world thing you're seeing happen in the United States. There's a lot of problems. And another factor I do want to bring in, and this is something that impacted Captain America: The First Avenger as well, the political perception of America. I know people don't like to hear it, but right now, a lot of the world is looking at the U.S. laughing at us. And putting out a film called Captain America at a time like this will impact the box office. This was also a factor, and people don't want to admit it, but it was, when The First Avenger came out. Many countries overseas were looking at it, what was going on at the time, the recession, the political climate, and their people just didn't want to see it. They weren't interested in American propaganda. I get it. It's a Captain America film. And you guys know, Captain America is my #1 Marvel Comics character. Love him. But again, you can't deny the propaganda that is the character. And the final one I want to end it on is Avengers, Marvel as a whole. I think it's safe to say that Marvel was peaking around Endgame, right? I think it's safe to say that. But let's not mince words. Right now, revisionist history tells you everything was fine and dandy. Everybody was excited for everything. Marvel Studios didn't take a single misstep. We love everything. Ant-Man 1. No. Ant-Man 2. No. Doctor Strange 1. No. People hated those films. We're still, as far back as 3 to 4 years ago, hating it. But revisionist history over time can be rewritten. And as they say, history is written by the victors. So that's what's happening now. You get a couple of wins with Deadpool and Wolverine. You can suddenly start to focus on rewriting history and changing it into what you want. But the proof is out there, and the old articles still stand. You know, there's articles from Variety that were stating the Avengers will bomb, and it's going to make only $750-ish million at the box office because the Hulk was a bomb, Thor was a bomb, Captain America was a bomb, Iron Man 2 was a step down from Iron Man 1. Avengers is it. It's not going to work. But it did. So there's just a couple of reasons of why I believe the film failed, and a lot of it does have to do with what's going on in the world. Some of it not, because again, other Marvel Studios films have done just as good. Shang-Chi and Eternals. But I do think that a major political shift and climate and perception of the United States was truly at the forefront. And of course, let's not forget this because I should have mentioned it earlier, but I might as well here. Reception as well. You know? If you're tight for money and you watch reviews and read reviews and you suddenly see 48 on Rotten Tomatoes, and I got to take a family of 4 to see this film, 15, 20 bucks a ticket. We got to get food. The concessions have risen by an average of 27% in the United States, and that started in February. Guess what? You're paying 130 bucks for a family of 4. What are you going to do? Go afford to eat for another few days or go watch Captain America? You know, I think the choice is very clear. People are going to go and see the film that they can make sure they can morally support, that they can be entertained by, and something that doesn't remind them of what's going on in the world today. Thank you for checking out that video, and thank you for your continued support. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, do whatever you will, and if you're so inclined and would like some additional content from us, which includes unfiltered content and bonus discussions, we do offer exclusively in our member section. We hope to see you there. So thank you for watching, and have a good one.